to be citizen journalists. You know, as we know, the mainstream media is not doing a really good job of letting us know what's going on behind the, behind closed doors at the State House and at our city council meetings, things like that, where things are happening that affect our lives, and we're really not getting the full story. So, we learned how to access open records, how to be inspired to go to city council meetings, go to school board meetings, and report about things going on. So it was very informative. Thank you for everyone that attended. We had a great day. We also, last weekend, was it last weekend? The Repeal Obamacare rally. Last Saturday, we threw it together in less than a week. We had about 150 people there on the waterfront. It was a great day. It was threatening to rain all day. We had a few sprinkles, but the rain held out for us, and we had some wonderful speakers. Jeff Katz was there, Aaron Goldstein, who writes for the American Spectator, Catherine White, who many of you have met, who runs the Constitution Study Group, spoke. We had a wonderful day. A couple things that are coming up. We have some conservative movies coming out this summer. One is 2016. If we have time, Patrick will have you talk about some of that. We're going to try and plan a meetup so that all of us can go as a group, and we'll be getting you some information on that and trying to figure out when a good day is going to be. Bev LaFleur she's generously stepped up and offered to organize these meetings, which I really appreciate. She's going to try and do a lot to try and get some new membership. She's going to try and advertise, at some of the libraries and other things. She's going to try and reach out to some people that may not, know how to reach us. So we're hopeful that our numbers will continue to grow. Speaking of growing our numbers, we were very disappointed about the SCOTUS decision, where they upheld the Obamacare as being constitutional. But I have to tell you that we've grown our numbers, probably about 25 new members since that decision. Through Facebook, every day we're adding new members. I've gotten emails from people saying, I've been on this, I've sort of been on the fence here, but now I'm all in. What can I do to help the Tea Party? So our numbers have really grown because of that. I think people are, I know it's slow, it's frustrating. We feel like we're banging our heads against the wall, but slowly but surely people are coming, and joining us. And we have to face facts. There's some people that just will never come to a Tea Party meeting. They're behind us all the way, and they're listening to talk radio. They're throwing things at their TV, all the things that we used to do. But they just may never actually come to a meeting, and that's fine. We know behind us we've got millions of people that are on board with us. So don't get disheartened. We're also still trying to recruit a Massachusetts team for True the Vote. We have some flyers up here. If you're not already a member and you'd like to join our team, what we're doing is we're working with a group out of Texas, a nonprofit organization, they're nonpartisan, called True the Vote. And what they're going to help us do is to clean up our voter rolls in Massachusetts, which are in dire need of being cleaned up. What they've done in Texas is they've been able to challenge some of the voter rolls. A couple of things that they've done, they've managed to get a list in one county of the people that said that they are ineligible to serve on a jury because they're not American citizens. Well, they compared that against the voter rolls, and in one county they found 600 people that were on the voter roll list but were not citizens. So they've been able to challenge it. They also have a legislative component to what they do. They've been able to make some changes to their voting laws in Texas because of this. So it's very important. Some things that we'll look for that are red flags. This happens a lot in Massachusetts. I'm sure it happens everywhere, where these people are very organized. That on the left that have this get out to vote effort. And what they'll do is they'll find abandoned buildings, they'll find warehouses, vacant lots, and use those addresses to register voters. So things like that will be red flags. If there's one address that has 200 people registered to vote and it's not actually a residence, things like that we'll be able to challenge. So all the training they're going to do for us is all through webinars and conference calls. So it's something that you can do from your home computer. So I really urge you, if you think, you want to help with that. It's a really important thing to get involved with.
And do you have the flyer and contact?
Yes, we have some little flyers here. We have all kinds of information here. Feel free to take anything that you want. We also have voter registration forms. If you know anybody that isn't registered to vote, feel free to take a form. Just make sure that they fill out the information properly. It has to be just so and sent into the city hall of the person that's registering. But there's a lot of conservatives out there that aren't registered to vote, as we're finding out. So if you know anybody, feel free to take some forms with you. We're also talking about doing a meetup at the Tea Party Museum. Our speaker, Reiber, has been talking to the folks there and trying to coordinate something with the modern Tea Party, and we're going to try and do a meetup there. It'd be kind of fun. Yeah. Great.
Pam and I just went there yesterday.
Oh, you did? How was it?
Excellent.
Yeah?
Yeah.
It's a little expensive.
It's worth everything.
It is?
It
Okay.
is. Cool.
Good to know. Yeah, so we're going to try and do that. That might be kind of a fun thing to do.
Can I just bring a point of order here?
Oh, yeah.
Can we do a pledge?
Absolutely.
We don't have a flag.
Yeah, there's one back there.
Oh, okay. Oh.
Thanks, Ray. I get so tied up in everything I have to talk about sometimes I forget. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks, Ray.
Thanks, Ray. We're not having any meetings, any organized meetings in August. Some people might still get together socially. We're going to use that month to take a little breather. We also recommend that you get out there and help any candidates that you're working with. The Greater Boston Tea Party as an organization doesn't endorse candidates. We invite candidates to come here and speak and have you make up your own minds about who to support, but we definitely encourage you to adopt a candidate or two or three and get out there and help them. They need lots of help with door knocking and making phone calls and things like that. So try and use the month of August to help get some of those things done. And I think that's everything I have. I'd like to introduce the candidate that we have here tonight is Joe Selvaggi. He's running for Congress in the new 8th Congressional District. He's been making the rounds at some of our Tea Party events and been getting some very positive feedback. So I'd like to welcome Joe Selvaggi.
Should I use this or?
Sure.
A foot away? Okay. It's good to see some familiar faces. Thanks for arranging this. Thanks. I see some of the guys I met at the Boston Tea Party event. I see Tom back there, and it's nice to know that there are some new organizers. Bev, congratulations. I'm sure you're going to make a good organizer. I don't know if anybody here knows about me. My claim to fame is I started Plaster Fun Time. I started that company 17 years ago. It makes a great punchline when people say, well, how are you going to go to Washington, all the name-calling and bickering? I say, well, for the last 17 years, I've been working with nothing but 5-year-olds. Who's more qualified than I am? Right? So I stand here. I'm the candidate for Republican candidate for the new 8th District. I'm the grandson of immigrants. I'm a graduate of WPI and the Harvard Kennedy School. I'm a veteran of the first Gulf War in the U.S. Navy. Thank you. And as I say, I'm an entrepreneur. More than 70 years ago, my grandparents came to this country with $8 in their pocket and just a dream of a promise of America. They left everything that was familiar for everything that was possible. I still remember my grandfather with me on his knee telling me that this is the greatest nation on earth. This nation has given us everything, and to this nation we owe a great debt of gratitude. Public service was a big part of my family's life. You probably, not unlike your own homes, my mom was a Sunday school teacher, my dad a Little League coach. It was the kind of family that naturally led me to want to join the service and serve my country in the U.S. Navy for a period of time. I still remember, like it was yesterday, sitting in my office in Little Creek, Virginia, when I saw that Iraq had invaded Kuwait. That was on August 2nd. By August 8th, I was unloading my sea bag out of a helicopter in Cyprus. So it changes your perspective when you risk your life for your country, and it makes you examine your commitment to truly making this a better place to live. The two hardest parts about being deployed like that is first calling your mom and telling her you're going. The other part I'll tell you about that is actually when you come home and you got to figure out how you're going to serve your country once you're back here. For me, I always wanted to give back. My first role back was in the high-tech software business. I enjoyed it. It was a great business, but it didn't do enough to change the world. For me, I needed to do something more, and that's when we came up with the idea of Plaster Fun Time. Sounds like a simple idea. Kids come in and paint plaster figurines. But for me, kids are our future, and kids are everything. What happens at Plaster Fun Time is they walk in thinking they're the best painters in the world, and they leave absolutely certain they're the best painters in the world. So what we're effectively doing is building self-esteem through success and creativity. So I'm very proud of Plaster Fun Time. 17 years ago, we started with just a crazy idea, and now 17 years later, we do almost 10,000 children's birthday parties a year. We employ nearly 60 people. We do everything from the retail stores. We actually manufacture the little plaster figurines that the kids paint in a factory in Somerville. So it's made in America. So when you bring your kids or your grandkids into Plaster Fun Time, that dog or dinosaur they're painting was made here in Massachusetts, no less. So I tell you about these, about Plaster Fun Time for a couple reasons. One, as I say, I believe in kids. They are our future, and I think everybody in this room probably would agree with me when you close your eyes and you say, what's most important in your life? I hope you'll think it's your kids or your grandkids and the welfare and the future that they can expect. For me, I really believe when one asks, why are you running for Congress? I believe we're betraying the trust of our children. For the last 4 years, we've borrowed more than $1 trillion of their money. If you think about that number, last year alone, we borrowed $1.6 trillion. That's a big number. Trillion rhymes with billion, rhymes with million. But trillion is a very, very big number. I like to say, to put it in perspective, the tsunami last March in Japan that wiped out cities and washed them away and had a nuclear meltdown, that disaster cost Japan $300 billion. So to put it in perspective, our government borrowed more than 5 tsunamis last year alone. That's outrageous. The other reason I talk about Plaster Fun Time is I believe this campaign and this election ought to be about jobs. For me, I've created 60 jobs right here in Massachusetts, so I know the challenges of creating them, and I know why I don't have more employees. Massachusetts right now has a relatively low unemployment rate, but at a national level, we have 8.3% unemployed, but a more important number is nearly 15% are underemployed. Economists call that value the U6. That's how many people, how many Americans would like to work more than they do for their families. That means 1 in 7 Americans can't find adequate work. That's outrageous. My hope is, as a congressman, to bring the common sense of a small business owner to Washington. I know there are 3 basic obstacles for my creation of jobs. Number 1, this wouldn't be a Tea Party meeting if we didn't talk about taxes. Well, of course, when we've got the highest tax rate in the entire world, it's going to stifle job creation. As of April 1st, when Japan lowered their top tax rate, we're number 1. We're the highest tax rate in the entire world. I'll say I make decisions about my own business, where I'm going to put my factory based on tax issues. I had to choose between Boston, Cambridge, and Somerville. I chose Somerville. They were the lowest tax rate when compared to Cambridge and Boston. It's not hard to figure out. Businesses go where the least taxes are. We're not going to India or China because we like the weather. In most cases, we're going to avoid the tax burden imposed by our government. The other issue is regulation. We hear about it every day. Regulation affects every aspect of our lives. Someone like Stephen Chu, and Secretary of Energy, take into account all kinds of aspects of regulation, except the most important one, which is what is the cost of that regulation on the businesses that it influences. So it's my hope, as a small business owner, to bring control of regulations back under the sense of a small business owner, someone who's going to think, what will be the impact of this regulation? And finally, and this relates to our waterfront event, Obamacare. I've given stump speeches before, and at the end, someone asked me, well, would you repeal Obamacare or not? So let me say it unequivocally. On my first day, I would do everything I can to repeal Obamacare. So I hope that gets at least some agreement in this. All right. Now, we talk about the mandate and the constitutionality of the mandate, and these are very complex issues, and I don't expect to have a constitutional debate here in this room. The more important aspect of it is fundamentally it adds 30 million people to a broken system. The challenge with healthcare in America is not the access, it's the cost. Cost keeps rising. In my own business, my own employees, because they're half of the premium, and from day one, Plaster Fun Time has given healthcare to all of its full-time employees. Healthcare is important. Believe me, I agree with that. But the fact is, the double-digit increases in premiums causes my employees to bring home less every year, despite raises that happen each year. So for me, we need to bring market dynamics to healthcare. We have essentially a blind system whereby we have no idea what our costs are, and therefore we make, let's say, uninformed decisions about what we'll choose. So I would replace Obamacare with a more market-oriented reform system. So let me describe my challenge. I'm running for U.S. Congress as a Republican in Massachusetts. That isn't easy, okay? But I'll tell you some good news. We're only 11% of the state, and largely of my district. That means only 1 in approximately 11, or 1 in 9 people are Republicans. That's not very good. A better number, perhaps, is that 32% are Democrats. Now, that might seem high, but that means 2/3 of Massachusetts is not Democrat. 53% of Massachusetts are actually unenrolled or independent. I talked to some of the people in this room today who are actually, as conservative as you are unenrolled. So my hope is those people who are unenrolled will choose the person over the party. So it's my hope that if I can get my message out, if I can talk about being a true conservative, I think I can sway a good percentage, not unlike the way Scott Brown was able to do in his election, towards voting for a Republican. For that matter, Scott Brown took 55% of this new district as it's drawn today. So, who am I facing? I'm facing an entrenched incumbent. His name is Stephen Lynch. I don't know if anybody here has heard of Stephen Lynch, but he's an ironworker from Southie, and he's been there since 2001. He's the poster child for the establishment, the entrenched incumbents. So that's who I'm facing in this race. I won't bore you with all the details of what Stephen Lynch has done wrong, but I'll say perhaps it's enough to say that while he voted against Obamacare in the beginning, he's missed 33 opportunities to vote for its repeal, including just last Wednesday. More telling, perhaps, is a simple tax on medical devices. In Massachusetts alone, we have a $7.5 billion industry in medical devices. You don't have to be an economist to know that when you tax something, you get less of it. So when we tax medical devices, we're going to have fewer medical device producers. When we have fewer producers in our state, we have fewer jobs. It also means there'll be fewer devices when you need to get one for yourself. Ultimately, your healthcare costs will go up because those devices that you do purchase will be taxed. So in one fell swoop, Stephen Lynch voted for a tax that may cost you your job, your money, and perhaps your life. I'll put it this way. Elizabeth Warren came out publicly and said, it's a bad idea and it's a bad tax. So Stephen Lynch is more liberal than Elizabeth Warren. So for those of you who are doubters in the audience, I invite you to research. I won't bring her name up again. I'm sorry. I'm not running against her. So what can be done? Well, in this district of 727,514 people, 300,000 are brand new. This district grew from the old 9th to the new 8th. We lost a congressman, so that each of the remaining 9 districts grew by a bit. So to describe my district, it goes all the way from where we had our Tea Party rally in the waterfront or Beacon Hill, all the way down to Bridgewater. We have some exciting new towns in that new district. So we picked up everything from Quincy down to Scituate, and that includes towns of Weymouth. We have some people here from Weymouth, Hull, Hingham, Cohasset, and great towns like Abington that are very family-oriented and I think sick and tired of the way Washington's being run right now. So I see an opportunity there. I've told you about who I am and what I represent. I hope it's come through clear that as a business owner, I believe in markets. I believe markets will solve. And it's fundamentally the power, the freedom of America is based in our ability to choose. I hope you'll join me or the conservative candidate of your choice in this race. I think we have a shot here. I've given presentations to Republican town committees and to whoever will listen to me. And I'm thrilled that you're here tonight. But it's not enough to simply go out and vote. I have a primary in September 6th. It's an odd Thursday after Labor Day, and I have a general election in November. I need more than your vote. I'm hopefully here to ask for your support in any way you can do it. On weekends, I door knock. On weekdays, I call. And frankly, when I'm not calling for votes and support, I'm asking for contributions. My supporters have been very generous to me, and I've had a lot of good fortune as far as raising funds, but I'm facing a guy who has a war chest of nearly $600,000. I think if I get within striking distance, I'm sure the organized labor that supports Stephen Lynch will find more money to give him. The important thing is we need to get the word out. I don't need to have more than him. I need to be in the game. So I appreciate any contributions that you can offer to my campaign. I've got an easy website to remember. Not everybody can remember Selvaggi, so see if you can remember this. Joe, the number 4, and jobs. joeforjobs.com. If you go on there, you can see the detailed plans of how I would use tax code regulations and the repeal of Obamacare to bring jobs back to America and get Americans back to work. I think my favorite quotation, and I won't bore you anymore, is Margaret Mead said, it's a small group of thoughtful people who have changed the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. It's one of my favorite quotations because if you're sitting there thinking someone else is going to do this, you're wrong. I was very impressed when I pulled into the parking lot by those bumper stickers. Some are, I don't know what you call them. When you what's it called when you paint your whole rear windscreen? I don't know what that's called, but whatever that is, it's good. I've never seen it before. And a patriot. I like that. So you guys, you all in this room are committed to changing the future, to ensuring that our children get the same America or better than the ones our parents gave to us. So I appreciate you listening to me, and I appreciate your support, and I welcome any questions if you have them. I don't know if I'm allowed to take questions. Surely I've piqued somebody's in. Go ahead.
Do you have any primary opponents?
I do. I have a primary opponent, a young guy named Matt Temperley. He's recently, he came out of the Army. He's an immigrant from Argentina. Fine guy. He doesn't have any private sector experience, but we've got lots of people, I suppose, that don't have private sector experience that get elected. So, sure.
What do you think of a national right to work law or legislation?
Well, for me, that's an interesting question about the right to organize. So I'll say we have the right to organize as labor. The fact that a state would mandate that you would have to join a union, that to me is an abridgment of your freedom. So whereas I would support the private sector and private workers' right to organize and to petition their employer for better working conditions, safer working conditions, higher standards. These are all things that add value both to the employee and the employer. But once you start mandating that one has to join a union, or worse yet, that those members of that union have to contribute to the union involuntarily, that's where I would draw the line. So if a union or an organized labor wants to sell the value of its services to employees, more power to them. Hopefully they'll sell their benefit to their employer. But if they try to use coercion or strong-arm tactics, I wouldn't support that. And I wouldn't support any law that would ensconce that in law. So that's a very good question.
I would like to see the schools and the public welfare, the public people that are owning unions. I would like to see them stop being paid through my money.
Mm-hmm.
They collect the dues
Right.
from the people who are working.
Right.
Where does that come off? Why am I collecting
I agree with you. I think everybody in this room would agree with you. I think this is a money engine for the Democratic machine, and I'm running against Stephen Lynch, who I don't know if all of you know these websites now, things like opensecrets.org. You can look up your congressman and find out who's giving him money. The top 25 are listed. The 23 of the 25 in Stephen Lynch's war chest or his contributors are organized labor. So he knows where his bread is buttered. He knows who brought him to the dance. So he's not going to change that. As far as I'm concerned, taking money out of anybody's pocket involuntarily is a bad idea. So I as a leapfrog onto the earlier question, I think that's unjust if you're being required to pay union dues. And furthermore, you have no control of where those go.
Required to take them,
Okay.
to have them distributed to the union.
Hmm.
Now, this is all kind of secretaries and whatever, it comes out of their paycheck. It's how much paychecks the police, the fire,
Right.
and you're doing the legwork for it, and it's just forwarding it to them.
Well, I mean, that's adding insult to injury. They're taking your money and making you do it.
They need to collect their own dues any way they can.
Sure.
And if I say, I've never been union member, I say, I don't want to pay for that.
Well,
They can't do anything.
it's after saying that Stephen Lynch has all this support from unions, I'll say I stand out there with clipboards. I needed 2,000 signatures just to get on the ballot. I'm happy to say I wound up getting 4,300 signatures with the help of my volunteers. Got rained on a lot. Thank you very much. Actually, I wound up with 2,773 signatures, so I'm very proud of that. And I got a lot of unsolicited opinions of union workers when I said, I'm challenging Stephen Lynch. Some said, I thought they were going to break my legs. But others were like, oh, well, you know what? I respect you. God bless. The union members very often are very irritated by the fact that they're told how much they have to pay. It's taken involuntarily out of their paycheck. But more often, they're told who to vote for. And I think, even let's say Stephen Lynch is fond of talking about that 17 members of his family work for the Postal Service. Well, the Postal Service is losing a great deal of our money, $8 billion this year. In a few short years, it may be as much as $20 billion a year because we're now using email. We're not using first-class mail. To them, the government, the Internet took them by surprise, so they've not adapted to the modern world. But even within my own postal worker in Boston, he said, I don't support what he's doing. Effectively, all it's doing is preserving these middle management jobs, that move papers around. You still need letter carriers, no matter what. But you don't need all these layers of bureaucracy. But effectively, union support keeps that middle management alive. So I've actually had terrific support from the rank and file union members. And they said, look, if they don't take money out of my pocket involuntarily, I can pick and choose which aspects of their benefits I want, and collective bargaining or whatever. But I think we're all on the same page. I think it's an injustice that you're forced to help them take your money and distribute it. It's outrageous. Any questions on in the back, sir?
I had a question about what's the chances of getting a national voter ID
Right.
bill passed or whatever, and how important is that to you? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I said I'm a businessman, which I hope is clear that I'm an amateur politician. I've been a candidate for Congress since January. And we talked about all the many things that go into a campaign, lawn signs and phone banking and mailers. And then they told me, well, you need somebody in all these polling places on Election Day. I said, what for? And the experienced people all laughed. They said, are you kidding me? I said, well, what do you mean? Well, people walk in, they don't know their name. The guy at the poll tells them who they are. They say, here I am to vote. What's my name? And they fill it out and vote. I couldn't believe it. So I did my research. And some of the statistics, I think, Christine, you had mentioned, we talked about Texas. Florida, they just got rid of 35,000 dead people, right? This is all absolutely important. Now, when we talk about voter IDs, I think that makes it, that's the ultimate goal. Ultimately, you don't need to take people off the rolls if they need an ID. Dead people can't show up with an ID. So I think that's a terrific solution. Well, in Massachusetts, I don't know. At a local level, I think we're doing a great deal. This isn't Jeff Deal's district, but I know Jeff Deal. He's a Republican representative, and he did a great job in the State House pushing for a state ID. His argument was simply this. He said, we know how much an ID costs because we use it for public benefits. It costs about 98 cents per person. And he estimates there's about 600,000 people in Massachusetts that don't have an ID. You know, they don't have somehow they don't ever need a library card. They don't have anything. So he said, well, the cost of that would be about $600,000. That's a lot of money, but you know what? It's worth it. Let's commit to $600,000 to guarantee everybody has an ID and then insist that they show it. To me, this is a no-brainer. I am, as a taxpayer, comfortable spending $600,000 making sure that every single voter is who he says he is. We've probably all seen that video where someone walks in as Eric Holder, right? And says, you know, he's Caucasian. He walks in as Eric Holder, and they say, and he says, I have no vote, I have no ID. No problem. You know, here you go. Go ahead and vote as Eric Holder. So I'll steal someone else's story at the Tea Party. Who was it? Oh my God, John La Rosa, who said his mom was a diehard Democrat and fought the fight about voter ID disenfranchising, fought all the malarkey of it, disenfranchising people. So she was carrying the torch for the Democrats, and she was so proud. She was a delegate. She went to the actual convention and then was surprised to find out that you needed a ID to vote at the Democratic convention. She said, you know what a bunch of hypocrites. And cashed in her Democratic card. So if he tells that story, laugh at that, will you please? Because I don't want to steal. That was his story, but to me that shows you the absurdity. They know that voter ID no voter ID invites fraud, and they know that they practice that, particularly in this state when we're dominated by Democrats. So I would be all for it, and I think it's a terrific way. And people are thinking, well, it's just an academic issue. If someone can vote as someone who he's not just casting a bad vote. He's taking away your vote because your vote is the most important right you have. I would tell any more stories, but I'll just say this. I'm very proud of the fact that my wife is an immigrant to this country. She came here from England, and very shortly after we met, I went to her citizenship ceremony. She had to study. She's from England. She had to study the test. For those of you who don't know, England is another country, and they have to take the test like everybody else. And they said, so she had to take the test, and they asked her, what's the most important right of all? And she asked me that. She said, Joe, what's the most important? You've been here your whole life. What's the most important? I said, I don't know. I thought about it. I said, okay, probably your right to vote. And that was the answer. He said, because everything else comes from that right. So nothing else is more important than the right to vote. So if somebody's voting and doesn't have the right to vote, they're taking away your vote, your most precious right of all rights. So if we're cavalier about that aspect, where will we draw the line? So I would support that 100%. At this level, and the way the federal government's set up, these are state issue rights. We talked about Texas, we talked about Florida, we talked about Massachusetts. So states have as their responsibility the right to keep their voting clean. You're voting at a state level. You're never voting, even though it's a federal candidate. So that's something that can be addressed here. But if it's at all possible from the federal level, I will endorse anything that encourages voter ID. So, all right. No more stories. Thank you for your time. Oh, and I'd love to get your email address if I can. If you wouldn't mind, I'll pass around a paper and perhaps you can give me your email. So wait.
And push cards.
And push card, sure. I'll trade you.
He's got a great push card, by the way. I haven't seen it. Thank you so much, Joe. You're welcome to stay as long as you want, but we understand if you have to get back to the grind.
Thank you.
He's a great candidate, as you can tell. Really needs your support, so I definitely consider supporting him if that's something that you can do. I forgot my notes. We're going to go ahead and get to our main speaker. Terry Reiber has been invaluable to the Tea Party over the last few months. He has stepped forward and offered to videotape many of our events. He videotaped the Citizen Watchdog training that is now up on our website and on our Facebook pages and things like that. He also videotaped, what's your partner's name, sorry? Ben.
Alexander.
Shout out to Ben Alexander as well. They've been working together, and they videotaped the Repeal Obamacare rally that we did on the waterfront last Saturday, and he's offered to come talk to you today about how to access your public access TV stations and how to get the message out that way and help spread the Tea Party message. Terry Reiber was born in Canada. He is a U.S. citizen, however. He's a small business owner. He owns Software Requirements Incorporated. He's president of Duxbury Business Association Incorporated, which is a nonprofit 501c6. He's a libertarian and Tea Party supporter, and he lives in Duxbury with a border collie named Mom. Terry Reiber.
Thanks, Christine, and thanks everyone for coming out in this rainy, stormy afternoon to the dog is at home. She's so afraid. I think she's under a bed right now with all that lightning. She was in my lap for about an hour. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to spend about 10 minutes talking about my experience with the Access TV channel and how it can be used to further the cause of the Tea Party and libertarian concerns. And then I hope afterwards we can have either questions or we can even just discuss things amongst ourselves. So I'll just tell you a quick story of sort of what got us here today and these cameras. Last December, I met Nancy Richard, who is in charge of PAC TV, which is the Plymouth Access TV, at a DBA meeting. And I used to have a video business part-time about 20 years ago. And I talked to her and I said, you know, we got to get back in this. So my significant other's son, Ben, I said, hey, let's go down and join PAC TV and see what happens. So we went in January. We paid $30 each. We went in for an hour session where they explained all the rules and regulations and signed them. And they said, okay, you got to take another course if you want to borrow cameras. So we took another course. We paid $20. We learned how to use the cameras. We took a course on lighting, a course on sound. Ben has since taken some courses on how to do the in-studio thing if you want to do a show, which I'll talk about a bit later. And literally within weeks of getting this course, we got this call from the Duxbury 375th Committee saying, hey, we're having 15 events to celebrate our 375th anniversary. Would you like to video all these events and put them on the local access channel? So we said, sure, we'll do it. So we were like immediately in business, running out there, doing all these different video assignments, in which actually some of our video made it onto, what was the name of the show, Ben?
Chronicle?
When it was on Chronicle last night, so we felt really cool that we got on that station. So then I thought to myself, you know, I'm a pretty rabid Tea Party supporter, libertarian. I thought, how can I kind of fuse this sort of love of video and access with what we're doing? So I contacted Christine. I said, you know, we really want to get out there and start supporting candidates, supporting the Tea Party. So Christine invited us out for the Citizen Watchdog training, and that was 8 hours, 8 sessions. So we're going to be putting that on local access TV. Can you imagine what they're going to think when 8 hours of videos, 8 separate videos get put on 5 times? They show each show 5 times. That's going to be 40 hours of Tea Party stuff saturating our local access TV. So I'm hoping that people eventually think Tea Party, yeah, that's normal, because they see it around them all the time instead of some kind of odd group they see on TV, you know, holding banners and, you know, tax me enough already. So since then, we also went down to the Repeal Obamacare rally, which, as Christine said, was an awesome event. It was a very heartfelt event. It was a very, very good event. 150 people showed up. We put it out on YouTube and as well got on the Tea Party site. Immediately we got up to 200 views. So we had 200 people seeing, or at least being aware of this event, versus the 150 that were at the event. Now, we put it out onto Access Channel. It's going to go out on 5 times. It's going to be broadcasted. We estimate between 200 and 300 people watch those shows when they come on. So that's going to be another 1,000 to 1,500 people just in the area of Plymouth and Duxbury that's going to see that channel. So we went from 150 people at the event to 200 seeing it on YouTube to probably 1,000 to 1,500 seeing it on TV. So it's really a good way to get the word out. And we were lucky on Saturday. We went to a Second Amendment Rights Forum that was sponsored by Chris Sheldon, and we interviewed all the presenters there. I got to shoot a 38 revolver. I'd never shot a gun before in my life, and they took me down the practice range, and I was boom, boom, you know. I'm just like, this is great. I'm videoing, and I get to shoot a gun, you know. But then we went after that to opening of the South Shore Plymouth Regional Office. What do they call that, Clay, that office that they opened up?
The Mass Victory Office. is what
The
they
Mass
call it.
Victory Office, and I think it's for all the local Republican candidates. Scott Brown and his wife came down. I got to interview both his wife and Scott Brown. I was in seventh heaven. I couldn't believe it. So, you know, things have really moved quite quickly for us, and now Ben and I are talking about putting together a Tea Party show, a Greater Boston or a Boston Tea Party show, where we're going to be interviewing candidates from now until the fall. And we not only want to push it out on the local access, we want to get it out to every access channel we can find. And there's 104 access channels across Massachusetts. So I think if we can get out to 20 or 30 of them, we could be pushing a lot of the messages. For instance, even this gentleman's speech today could go out to as many as 5,000 or 10,000 people if we can get that kind of access. So our next goal is to get this Tea Party program going. It'll be a once-a-month taping with maybe 3 guests. And then we're going to try to get people to help us to distribute this out to all the different access channels. Just to slow down and because I get kind of revved up about it, but you know, I've had people comment to me and say, "Oh, wow, you must think you're a real big guy, right? You got to talk to Scott Brown, or you're interviewing these candidates." Believe me, when I see myself on TV, I think, he's not the best-looking interviewer out there. He's got kind of a pudgy face, a little bit of a gut. I'm not doing it for me. I'm doing it to get the message out, you know. I mean, I'm on Facebook all the time in the Greater Boston Tea Party area, and I'm, you know, putting out the funny comments and reposting stuff. But I think for the Tea Party to really become a large movement in this state, we have to make it so that young people growing up think, yeah, okay, Democrats, Republicans, Tea Party, it should be just a natural part of their of how they express themselves. And I know a lot of Ben's young friends, they love this libertarian Tea Party stuff. It gives them a beautiful framework to process the information they're getting from candidates. So my goal is to help the Tea Party movement any way I can, and if we can do it with these cameras, that might be a way to help. So this show is being taped. It's probably going to go out 5 times in the Duxbury Access Channel. That's 1,000 to 1,500 viewers. But I've already had a few people inquire and say, hey, maybe we can get this on our channel too in our town.
Yeah, how you can get that? I live in Brockton. How can I access that?
We're actually just investigating that ourselves. I don't know if we can just get our stuff on that channel because we're the member of one access channel. Go ahead, Patrick.
I think I've heard this before. I think the Worcester Tea Party was actually mentioning this during their attempt to promote the April 15th rally out of Worcester. I think if you have to meet somebody in that town.
Right.
So a resident of, you know, Mansfield, a resident of Holbrook, can go to the local cable access.
Okay.
And I was gonna actually ask the question a little bit too. With the local cable access, I'm assuming it's with Comcast or Verizon or whatever.
Right.
Maybe an approach would be if there's some trainings for this, needed for this, that maybe instead of numbers of people going to their local cable access and going to Mansfield or Holbrook or wherever and saying, I want to get trained and having to set up something, and also you're a little skittish about doing that.
Yeah.
I wonder if we could go to Verizon and say, could you certify, if we brought in 20 people, could you certify them as being cable access trained, whatever the classes that you went through was, and be able to go into the various towns and go to their local cable and say, hey, I've gone through the training, you can talk to so-and-so at Verizon, so-and-so at Comcast.
Right.
And it's just a thought, but I think you have to be a resident of that town. So wherever you live, if you get I believe it would be a DVD from Terry, you could take that to your local cable access and say, I would like this put on, please. But I think that's what we need to do. That's what the impression I got from the Worcester people when they were doing it. Not that I successfully followed through myself, it was a little bit busy time for me. But I think, and also I think if we're doing that as a group, we could actually get some legs behind it, you know, have maybe 2 or 3, you know, involve Merrimack, some of the other local tea parties, and just say, we want to get a training with people. And then maybe somebody at an organizational level could also go out and find all the contacts at the various local cable access points and get that going to say, okay, Verizon, you're in 130 towns in Massachusetts. Who are the people? You must have a list. Could you give that to us?
Right.
So that we could do something like that.
Yeah, there might be a few what I call reciprocal agreements that if you're a member of one access channel, I believe you can submit to other access channels.
Very possible, yes.
And when you first sign up, if all you want to do is put in a show on a channel, you don't need to take all that training.
Right.
You just need to show up, read their rules, pay their little fee, which is somewhere between $15 and $30, sign your name, and then all you do is you take the disc, you fill out a form that says you're the producer, you're responsible for what's on this disc, and hopefully there's nothing really bad on it. And you can just put it in. You don't have to know anything about videoing anything. All you have to know is that you respected the rules of that station and that you're calling yourself the producer. And it's as simple as that. So, I mean, this is still a work in progress for us because we're moving to put on the show and then to try to distribute it because I really think it's superb. And the other thing we do is we're cutting a lot of small videos. Like this is a 30-minute show, but we'll, for instance, cut really small snippets of, for instance, a politician's speech and put that just out on YouTube, and then they'll put it back out on their website and communicate it out to all their contacts. So it's not just the only stream is not just access channels, but it goes onto YouTube and a lot of other places. So, but anyway, does anyone have any other suggestions of what we could do to further the cause in this manner, or any questions? Or
No, I think that we need to investigate that because that would be just absolutely fantastic. We can spread the information and just your introduction because it was great.
well, what we'll do after this section. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Are you Facebook friends with Matt O'Brien?
Don't know.
Okay. What's the Tea Party? He was one of the people who's organizing that. I can.
Okay.
with him.
Sure.
And I
Sure.
was just contacting him because he was somebody who was organizing that effort, and he might have some contacts too.
Okay.
How we can contact you to get any of those videos if we'll
I'll give you my.
organize something.
Yeah, I'll give you my email, but we definitely use the help, even just a blanket South Shore for now, because we're doing a lot of interviews with the South Shore politicians. Yeah, go ahead.
We have another Tea Party meet up in Mansfield, like next Tuesday night we'll be doing it.
Uh-huh.
Now, would you be willing to go there and film it?
I'm willing to do a number of them. I can look at going to Mansfield. It's a bit of a haul for me, but we can do it for sure. You know, the trouble is a Mansfield show going on a Plymouth channel would be kind of.
Well, my thought is if you could just get it downloaded to, a DVD or whatever, and maybe we can get it to the local Mansfield and surrounding towns.
Yeah, so I think we can do that. You know, what I'd like to see is all of these regional shows. Like there was one last night up in, where was it? Up in the North Shore. Medford. Ralph Zazula presented on social media. I would have loved to have seen that, but I can't. So if we can get somebody to video at all these shows, I mean, maybe we'd have to work out a way to do that. Then, I could at least go to YouTube and find out what did he say, because not everybody can make every meeting in every location, but I think that's a great idea. So we'll have to work out a structure to this a little bit.
What I'm looking, you guys got 2 cameras set up, a microphone, so.
Yeah.
If we find somebody at each region that got similar equipment,
Yeah, to do that, definitely.
you can make a DVD, obviously, right?
Yeah, and you don't need any really fancy equipment. The typical camera that anybody has in their home, a lot of that stuff takes HD video. You can just put that on a tripod and just shoot with it, and we can edit it and get it ready to be broadcasted. I mean, grant you, that's actually my camera and my own equipment, and that's PAC TV equipment. We do a bit of a hybrid. We just go to them now when we need extra equipment. But you need very little equipment to actually video something. It's amazing, actually.
Actually, just a quick question, since you probably do it quite a bit. What do you use for video editing software?
I use Cyber Link, I think it's called. Power, what's it called? Power Director Ultra. It's only $85. and it's unbelievable. I can take this event, which might be an hour, and within an hour 15, I can have it edited and the stuff ready to go for broadcast. It's amazing. It's really good stuff. Yeah, so, the other thing is if you're just out somewhere and you see something going on, like Occupy Wall Street's doing something nuts, you can just get your phone out and video it, and then you can put it on YouTube or you can email it to someone. But the big thing is, if you get any really good footage of anything, we can certainly help you to get it Access TV ready, or even, put a little better job on it for YouTube. Okay, that's all I have. I'm pretty excited about what we're doing, and I'm really looking forward to any help we can get.
Kelly, what about a schedule on the shows that you produce? Duxbury.
Mm-hmm.
You go to a lot of towns also.
Our PAC TV covers Kingston, Plymouth, Pembroke, and is there another channel? And Duxbury, right, our own home channel. They have one channel that goes out to all 4 or 5 towns, and then they have individual channels for each town. And when we submit it, the lady there schedules it, and she'll get back to us and say, okay, your show is going to be on this date and this date at this time, and then immediately email people so they can watch it. So it works well.
I think a lot of, at least I've recently seen bios, and I think sometimes they'll have like 30 or 40 cable access channels, but of course they're unlabeled, you don't know what they are, so maybe if we could figure out what those are as well.
Yeah, I think a lot of the way the Access TV is funded is when the towns do a deal with Comcast and with Verizon, I think it's like 1.5% of their take goes off to the Access channel. And so therefore, they're reasonably well budgeted. So it might be on a town by town level.
One more question. You took this training through BIOS or Verizon? Or
Through the Access TV channel, yeah.
town?
No, through PAC TV. They're actually, they serve multiple towns. And I'll tell you, they got training and everything. You can learn video editing. They'll teach you that. They'll teach you how to go into a studio and shoot like a news show, which we're going to be doing. There's really no end of it that they'll train you.
They do the certifications for a number of towns? Or?
Yeah, I think for the 4 or 5 towns they cover, I don't know how many members they have. My guess is they have 200 or 300 members, and people just go in and do the training. I mean, Ben is more interested in the in-studio stuff. I kind of like going out there into the wild. Like, it was kind of fun when we were down in Boston, at the repeal Obamacare, because I'm kind of looking behind my back, like, am I going to get hit over the head or something? There was a bunch of hotheads, but on the other hand, if real chaos breaks out, I've got some awesome footage, So one guy said to me, "Are you afraid?" I said, the best thing that could happen is if some chaos breaks out, for me, as long as the equipment doesn't get destroyed. But well, thank you very much. I appreciate it, and any help we can get, I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Terry. This is really going to be a really great way to help spread our message to people that might not, otherwise get it. So we really appreciate it. We'll do some research into that. Patrick, you want to maybe check into that and see if it's something we could get trained in as a group? Yes.
Yeah, I just have a quick question. If, because we have just like a really very basic camera, a video camera, we'll tape one of the meetings. Can we just send it to you and, on a memory stick or something, and you can just audit?
Yeah, there's even something you can call, I think it's called Dropbox or Box, where you can load it up to the web, and then we could download it to make it really easy. But yeah, any camera at all. I mean, a lot of these little cameras have the little thread in the bottom. You can put it on a tripod, or I'll show you something else we use. These are really great. They cost about $30. It's called a monopod, because people don't like seeing really jerky sort of stuff. So you can just go like this. You can put your little camera, thread it on the top. Well, it goes higher than that, but generally, and then you can, it all just kind of, and yeah, you can sit there and just, listen to a person or whatever, and it's really versatile. You can really move around. So we use this when we're moving around a lot, but when things are fixed, we use the tripods. But Yeah, any small camera could do the job. Yeah, that camera right there could do it. I'm sure of it. They, the
You
the
know, audio is important.
right.
That's the most important part.
It is.
You know,
It is.
Picture, yeah, the audio is the most important.
And that's one thing they trained us is like I'm using just a normal mic, but we often use shotgun mics. And I can tell you, generally speaking, the audio on our shows are awesome. Sometimes our video technique's a little off, and maybe I'm cutting between cameras because somebody did something really wacky on the other camera for a second. So we can hide a lot of mistakes, but our audio is always gorgeous audio. And I have a shotgun mic. I paid $30 for it, and it gives me virtually pro audio. It's unbelievable.
But I
The
think
set on the
that's-
Obamacare rally was really good.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, I watched the whole thing before I put it up, and every single word, you could catch every single word.
If any of you want to see any of the video that he shot, if you're on Facebook with us, or you can go to our website, greaterbostonteaparty.com, and the videos are downloaded
And it's
on there.
excellent.
And keep in mind, we're volunteers. It's still a work in progress, but we're continually trying to improve, definitely.
Yeah. We appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
Terry.
There are a few movies that are coming out in the very near future, or some that have just recently been released that might be of interest to people. The first one sounds pretty exciting. It's 2016. Actually, there's two flyers there about it.
Is it going to be on the like mass email?
We can put it in a mass email, definitely. Yes.
That'd be good.
Yes. 2016 is a movie that was produced by Dinesh D'Souza, who is a conservative author, and also the Academy Award-winning producer Gerald R. Mollen, who worked on Schindler's List, as well as some other Rain Man and a few other movies, a number of other movies. The book is based on Dinesh D'Souza's book, Roots of Obama's Rage, and the idea is 2016, what is America going to look like if we have another 4 years of Obama? It hit the theaters in Texas for an initial release, and it had some pretty spectacular results, hitting like about $30,000 in the theater for a weekend, which is when Atlas Shrugged was released, it was topped that weekend at $5,000 in theater average, so this did exceptionally well. It actually also features President Obama's half-brother, which is interesting. And actually, I was just looking at the article. It says 2016 has been scheduled to expand to 120 theaters on July 27th. But Sayan, who's with the Rocky Mountain Pictures, said that they may try to bump that up to 400 theaters. So in the very near future, this may be hitting the theaters in a big way. I am not aware of any local releases of that, but we will be keeping people informed about that, and probably maybe even send out a special email if and when we find out that it's in local theaters. Yes?
Patrick, I'm on an email list to be notified when it comes to this area.
Yes, I am as well. Yes, I know. And I think I do have it on my phone too. So yes, I know. Yes, I'm trying to keep on track of the top of a few of these. But it does sound pretty exciting. There's actually 3 trailers for the movie online right now, and also there's a 14-minute YouTube video where Dinesh D'Souza was speaking at the CPAC in February of this year, where he was talking about it for about, I think it was 14 minutes, and it's pretty inspirational and interesting video to watch. But it's basically some of the taglines. Will America allow one man's past to redefine its future? Talking about kind of the checkered past of Barack Obama. The other tagline is, love him, hate him, you don't know him. Because, I mean, quite realistically, we all know that President Obama and his past was not really vetted. You talk about past girlfriends. Well, they talk about a past composite girlfriend. Who has a composite girlfriend? I just don't get that. And we're talking about, I know. And then you talk.
They're saying that Romney is hiding something.
Oh, I know, yes. And when Romney was building businesses, Obama reported in his book that he was doing pot and other drugs and just zoning out while he was in college.
And that is not worth news. at
Right,
all.
yeah, that's not newsworthy. But, so, that's, yes, and if you question them, you're automatically racist. Which actually kind of brings me to the second movie. Like I said, that one sounds like it's going to be hitting the theaters in a big way in a short period of time, so definitely, keep an eye out for that. Another movie that's actually getting out there a little bit, and actually which they previewed at CPAC, but which I unfortunately was not able to, or did not take the time to see, is a movie called Runaway Slave. Now that has a number of prominent conservative blacks in it, such as Herman Cain, Zoe Rachel. If you ever watch Zoe Nation PJTV videos, you'll recognize him. Dr. Alveda King, Martin Luther King's niece, Professor Thomas Sowell, Rep. Allen West, and also Star Parker. Basically, the premise is that the blacks in America have been basically put on the Democrat plantation, and that they're not to question the progressive agenda, and that they're marginalized by the very people who are purporting to help them. If you ever listen to Star Parker talk in particular, she has an amazing story about coming from being a welfare mother, etc., and becoming a strong-willed individual and making a success out of herself. So,
What's the name of that?
the movie is called Runaway Slave. It is opening, it seems like a bit slower. This one's actually was produced and complete back in February, but it's been kind of slow to get released. I think it's something that needs to gather momentum. If we get it in this area, we'll definitely be putting that information out. Also, if anybody knows local theaters, just to bring that up, if anybody knows of local theaters that would be willing to host or that are open for rentals, I think somebody mentioned one in Franklin last time. If you know of those things, please send them to me. I'd be very much interested in it because maybe something like 2016 probably might actually get into some of the standard theaters in this area. Maybe something like Runaway Slave may actually need to be brought by an organization such as us to try to bring it into the theaters and get it put out there. Okay, but Runaway Slave is actually is opening July 27th in 3 theaters, a couple in Pennsylvania and one in Georgia, and some theaters in August 3rd as well. So that's another movie that's coming out. There's 2 other movies that I'll mention just very briefly, but they seem to be more things that are interesting and out there, but not really going too far. One is called Hating Breitbart. They played a trailer or 2 of that at CPAC. It's basically talking about people who just didn't like Breitbart because of all the good work he was doing as a videographer, as a newsmaker, going out there and kind of shining the light of notoriety on some rather unsavory characters like Anthony Weiner and a lot of other people. Let's not say anything more about Anthony Weiner. I saw the headline on Drudge today, Anthony Weiner pulling out. Okay, please don't do that. Okay. The other movie, which is being done by Citizens United, is called Occupy Unmasked. That appears to be going straight to DVD, but again, we'll probably try to contact them to see if we can actually maybe do a showing of it of some type. And last but not least, is kind of my favorite, is Atlas Shrugged. Atlas Shrugged was a movie that was released in April 15th, 2011. This is kind of the more known part of it.
Have you seen that movie?
Yeah, a few times.
Because I read the
He doesn't
book.
want to admit how many.
I paid for a number, probably about 5 or 6 times, and then I saw it for free a couple of times because I went to some special screenings in New York, and then we actually had one locally too. That
You like it?
I liked it. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and it is on DVD.
Because I was a little bit reluctant. I
Well,
heard
people-
that
yeah,
it's not as good.
Well, it's trying to pack in. Well, it's also one part. The movie itself was part 1. Okay, which the book itself is broken into 3 portions, and part one was released, and they had a slate of actors who appeared in it, and they actually have a completely new cast coming forward with part two. Part two is part of the book, and it's called, which is called Either Or, which is the title of that section of the book. Atlas Shrugged, for those of you who are or aren't familiar of it, it's a book written by Ayn Rand in 1957. It was, it's a thick book in a couple of ways. It's 1,100 plus pages, depending upon how small the print is, and is thick as philosophically and thought processes, philosophy. She is a exceptionally, probably one of the best free market capitalist proponents out there. She is a militant atheist. I'll put that out there. Some people do have problems with her because of that, but if you can get beyond that and just listen to her economics and her freedom and her love of the American capitalist system and free markets, you'll understand that she has there's a great love for what makes America great embodied in her work. Part one of the book part one of the movie was released on April 15, 2011. It relied a lot on word of mouth advertising. Tea Party, it was released on April 15th, tax day. It didn't have a huge budget for getting out there, so it didn't do extremely well. The producer realizes the problems with that, and they've actually upped the budget for marketing this time by a factor of 10. Yes?
Where would you recommend that I can get the DVD?
DVD, it's on Netflix, but it's also in stores too.
It is on Netflix.
Yes, it is on Netflix. Which is kind of funny because Netflix didn't pay him for it yet, but actually it may have been pulled down from Netflix. Last I knew, it was on there.
Do you know if it's on Amazon.com?
It's on Amazon.com, but you can also go to the website. If you have a Blu-ray, I would absolutely recommend the Blu-ray because it's $25, and it has. This is what you'll find in the stores. The people who produced the movie actually released 4 different versions of it. For a total of like $70 if you bought all 4 DVDs, which since I had a DVD player I did, and I'm kind of follow it a lot if you haven't gotten that impression yet. The Blu-ray itself though has all 4 of these special features on it. The special features being from the producers of the movie, which goes into the making, and also I appear in that, believe it or not, they kind of had people upload YouTube videos saying, I am John Galt. Don't look at it. I look really even uglier in that. The second one was from the Reason Foundation, which is the people who put on Reason TV and Reason the magazine, a very libertarian group out of the Washington, D.C. area. Nick, I forget Nick's last name. Gillespie is featured in that, and that's a good portion as well. The third part is from Freedom Works, which has Matt Kibbe on it and others talking about a lot of the Tea Party and how the Tea Party movement folds into it. And the fourth special edition is from the Atlas Society from New York City, which is somebody who's been following Ayn Rand's philosophy for a number of years. When you hear people talk about the books in the movie, just to be aware for the people who maybe aren't clued into her philosophy and her adherents, the people in New York City are one group who follow her, and it's the Atlas Society. Then there's also an organization out in California called the Ayn Rand Institute, where Yaron Brook works and speaks quite very passionately on her estate's behalf. Also, the head of the institute is Leonard Peikoff. The California group is the group that are her official heirs and the ones who kind of follow her philosophy of objectivism. They have quarrels with the group in New York City. It's the New York City people who put the movie out. So that's why sometimes you'll hear people talk about the movie in various terms. It is a good movie, and I think all sides agree that if you get people to look at the movie, then maybe encourage them to read the book, and that they would enjoy the book, and maybe even say, oh my goodness. Because that's the part about part 2, which is coming out very pointedly on October 12th. right before the election. 3 or 4 weeks in the theaters before the election. Part 2 of the book, if you remember the book well, is where it's hitting the proverbial fan. It's basically where the government's run amok, it's regulating, taking over the economy. Kind of sounds familiar. It's basically Obama's America gone amok, written 50 plus years ago, talking about it, how it's going to be falling apart, which I think a lot of people will look at that and go, oh my goodness. Part 1 of the movie had a cameo, which actually wasn't known too much, but Andrew Breitbart appeared in it. It's an unknown part, but you only see him at a party where he's just talking to people in a tux. In the part 2 of the movie, there's a cameo by a gentleman by the name of Grover Norquist. Anybody know him? Yeah. Grover Norquist, I think, is playing a drunk, an out-of-work bum, which is kind of, not typecast at all. But again, we're very excited. As you can tell, very excited about that. It is coming out October 12th. In preparation of that, they are talking about re-releasing the movie Part 1, and I hope to have. That's why I was asking if there's theaters. I think definitely we'll try and get that here shown. I've already inquired with some of the people. I had actually had some fun talking to the people who were releasing it the first time, and I will be reconnecting with them again, or have some. Okay.
I read the book many times. This book you can read many times and always discover something new.
Absolutely.
And I was very reluctant to watch the movie because I just heard that it's not as really as good.
Well, it's funny. It's tough to pack, 350 pages or whatever of content into an hour and a half movie. And with the first movie, they actually had trouble where it really wasn't long enough. They just didn't have, they were saying, oh, there's going to be more on the DVD. No, there wasn't, because it was really underfunded. The story is very, very long. You could probably go on and talk about it forever. The history is that the person had the film rights for 20 years. He was going to lose the rights if he didn't start making it by X date. About 2 weeks before that, he had actually had all the stuff together and he was making it. It was on a somewhat limited budget. But he's a very passionate man and was being very true to the book. This time around, they're putting a lot more. I mean, he put a huge amount of effort into it, but they're putting. This movie is supposed to be on the order of 2 hours for part 2, and they've got some. I can't remember his name, and one of the actors was a little bit more known to me. He's oh shoot! I'm sorry. No, I'm thinking of the Hispanic actress who actually plays Francisco D'Anconia. He had played on cop shows, as I remembered, and I'm looking at this is kind of one of the posters that they're developing. The first poster that they released basically was the numeric Roman numeral 2, but this is the second poster that they're actually, and it's supposed to have come into our mailbox about a week ago, but hasn't. Otherwise, I would have had it here. But so that's coming out very shortly. And to be honest, I think that the book is good if people want to understand economics and why America is so great. It's phenomenal. But and hopefully the movie will kind of wake people up too. I mean, that's why they're releasing that in October. Again, they're beefing up their budget. They said they've actually got some very professional people who had done some huge movies out there working on promoting part 2. So hopefully it'll be a big splash in the theaters, and I think as some people see it, they'll really go, oh my goodness, this is what we're coming to. Part 1, I'll stop saying everything very briefly for the 5th time. Actually has some good scenes in it. Okay, has some excellent scenes in it where you actually telling a chief operating officer of a railroad telling the union people to go to hell, basically. It's got some good scenes. Anyway, thank you very much.
Patrick, we're here for you if you need an intervention. There's also a woman in Boston that's doing a documentary where she's comparing the Occupy movement to the Tea Party movement. She's interested in talking to Tea Party folks. Anna, I would love for her to hook up with you if that's something that you'd be interested in doing. Your story would be valuable to her. She doesn't have a car, so you'd have to go to Boston and meet her. But if anybody's interested in, telling her your story, get in touch with me and I'll hook you up with her. Bev, do you have anything to address the group with?
Come on, Bev.
Welcome, Bev.
Where's that microphone go? You get to go on TV the first meeting.
Want to thank you all for coming, and the only thing I wanted to say was I was wondering how you'd all feel about having a meeting on a Tuesday as opposed to Wednesday. I know there are some people that would like to come, but they have other commitments on Wednesdays. Tuesdays seem to be a better day. Would anybody object to, say, the second Tuesday of the month?
Just
There's,
have to make sure it doesn't conflict with the Medford meeting, but we
Medford is the third Tuesday.
sometimes it's the second, it depends.
Medford's the third, right? Do you have anything on the second?
Calendar.
It can go around.
Yeah, we don't have a set date for Medford yet.
Actually,
don't
We book it every month, depending on.
Oh, okay,
Yeah, so we can talk about it.
So, the third Tuesday then?
probably do
How would you like, yeah?
Anybody object to a Tuesday instead of a Wednesday? No? Okay, well, I will,
the fourth Tuesday. Mansfield's the fourth Tuesday.
yeah, Ray's I'm still gonna go to Ray's. That's the 4th, so I wouldn't have it then. So the third Tuesday, I will check with the management here, see if we can change it. We're not having a meeting next month, so it would be in September. So is everybody on the Greater Boston
Email us.
email list here? So it will be on Meetup. And thank you for coming, and we'll see you in another 2 months. And the primary's over.
Before we close, I just want to give a shout out to our webmaster, Tom Meyer. He is doing a fantastic job with our website. If you haven't checked it out recently, please do. We have lots of video and cool stuff on it. So thank you so much, Tom. We appreciate it. And our waitress has been wonderful. She's had a lot of work. And thanks for coming, everybody.
And bring a friend next time.
Yes.
Yes.